welcome back. Our next guest is a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, and the founder of Inside Ability Books. She joins us to speak about how she's advocating for others who deal with disabilities in the literary community and beyond, and highlight her Inside Ability Books too. So please welcome to the show. Here she is, Krystle Boateng.
Thank you so much for
That's
having me.
Boateng.
Yes, Boateng, yes.
Yeah. Tell us about how you got started with this whole thing. You had some things happening in your life that led you to get more involved in what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I always like to give a little background knowledge about the vision loss community. We are actually 8% of the U.S. population, or roughly about 20 million Americans.
Yeah.
And so on that spectrum of vision loss are people who have very poor vision that cannot be corrected by glasses or contacts, etc., all the way to the other side where you have little to no usable vision. And so along that spectrum are men, women, parents, grandparents, children, all races, all ages, and if you ask any one of them, they'll have a unique workaround for a particular pain point that they have. Now for me, I've had or been living with vision loss for the last 20 years, and so I know where to get my aids, my large print, my different things, my magnifiers. But when I became a new mom with my first son, I struggled at story time. I could not find books that were large enough for me to read or had a high enough contrast for me to see. And so I took on the undertaking of figuring out how I could make that work for myself. And that's how Inside Ability Books was born. And then I presented it to the market to help other storytime strugglers like myself.
Now, you had vision loss since age 19?
Yes.
What was happening when you found out that this was going on with you?
Sure. So I was in college. I was away from home. I was in D.C. I was at GW. And I'll try to give you the quickest version of that story. Yeah. But ultimately, I just started to notice changes in my vision. I hadn't met anyone who was visually impaired or legally blind before, no one in my family. So I really didn't know what was happening. So, you know, when I would talk to family and friends, it would be like, oh, well, you're studying a lot, get some more rest, you know, that sort of thing.
You thought it was that probably also, right?
Exactly, exactly. I had no point of reference like, oh, this is serious. Then just one particular morning, I woke up and I had my first what they call inflammatory attack. And that was of the eye condition called uveitis, which is an inflammatory eye condition. It's autoimmune.
And it closes off the optic nerve a little bit, or what is it?
Well, no, actually for me it's just like my body's having a allergic reaction to the tissues in my eyes. And so it creates a lot of inflammation and light sensitivity and tearing and difficulty seeing, very, very blurry vision.
Is it stable or is it getting worse?
Well, for me, I'm currently in remission, but for many years I was up and down and all around. And to be honest, what ultimately led to me being legally blind was a procedure that I had during that time when the inflammation was active that scarred my retinal tissue. So I actually have central vision loss, which is what leads me to be visually impaired.
How do I look to you now? Am I
Sure. So, and I'm happy to answer that, but I also brought some simulation glasses to kind of help along the conversation.
Okay.
I have a pixelated blob in the center of my vision. So my challenges are facial recognition. So I often have kind of awkward social interactions because I'll say, oh, nice to meet you. And they're like, girl, you know me. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I didn't catch the voice.
Why do that,
though? Or, you know, if I'm meeting someone for the first time and I anticipate that I'm going to see them again in that scenario, I'll usually try to say, hey, by the way, I'm visually impaired. Feel free to tap me or say my name because I don't ever want that situation where they feel like they've locked eyes with me across the room and smiled and I look through them like they're not there because I don't see them.
She didn't pay any attention to me.
Right. So beyond that is reading, right?
She thinks she's all of that. She's not
Exactly. You know, someone could really be holding a grudge, you know? And so when it comes to reading, I have to hold things almost like nose to page, or I have electronic magnifiers. There's handheld ones, there's desktop ones. And then for screens, like computer screens for the cell phone, I use the software magnification that basically zooms everything big. So I'm only seeing a part of the screen at a time, and then I kind of pan as I need to.
So you're making it work for you?
I am.
Yeah,
I
you're
am.
making it happen.
I am.
So-
But for me, with story time now, when I thought about kind of cuddling up with my young one,
Yes.
and then getting all that information early on about how important story time was for his development and his literacy, I didn't want to, drop the ball there. But I would try to read these books, and by the end of it, my eyes were just totally red. I had a headache. It was just terrible. So I was like, well, if I can just get it bigger, if I can just get it to be a sharper contrast.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's how Inside Ability Books was born.
Yeah, and so you have the,
Yes. So what I brought here are 3 examples. One is central vision loss, which is what I experienced. Another is an example of what someone with diabetic retinopathy might be experiencing. And then the other is cataracts. Most people have heard of cataracts. So I
Yeah.
brought these 3. You can take a look there. And I know you have some documents in front of you. You can kind of look at those size letters and words and see how difficult
Yeah,
it
this
might
one
be
is-
to perceive them. It's
this one has the dots in the middle.
right. So that one is central vision loss.
And that's what you're dealing with?
That's what I have, yes. And so here's the large size of my books, and all my books come in 2 contrasts. As you can see, the black background,
Yeah.
white letter. This one has white background, black
see.
letters. So now take a look at this versus the documents in front of you. You can see how visibility is made
Oh, yeah.
a lot better with the larger and the high
That's true.
contrast.
Do you have to turn your head like that to see from the corner of your eye to get a better
Well,
view?
unfortunately, once your vision in the center is compromised, you can't look around it. Wherever you look, it goes with you, wherever you
Yeah,
look. And so what happens for me is the closer I can get it, or the larger I can get it, is it falls out of the affected area, and then I'm able to perceive it.
Yeah.
So an easier way to visualize that is if you place your hand away from your face, it's a very small area of your full field of vision. When you bring it closer, it becomes most of your field of vision.
Yes.
And so you can see how when your hand is further away, it could fall into, let's say, the affected area, like in my case.
Yeah.
Once it's bigger, then it starts to fall out, and you can kind of see the letters with your peripheral vision.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one here?
That one, it's probably written on the side. I think that's probably diabetic retinopathy.
Yes.
So that's where like different parts of the vision are obscured.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so small print, again, is going to be obscured. But the larger the print is, your brain can start to fill in the pieces, and you're able to see it a lot better.
And this,
And the last is cataracts. And cataracts is kind of like, think of like a dense sheer curtain that you're looking through at the world. And so it's not as sharp. So certainly something like with a black background, white letters, nice and large, pops out a lot better than a lot of the pastels that you'll see in children's books, or the blue sky with blue letters over it, that sort of thing.
yes, yes. So the books that you've written,
Yes.
that you put together, help out in all conditions, everything that we experience right here.
Yes, those 3 certainly. But vision loss is a spectrum, and I always like to say everyone's experience is totally unique, because there's so many different ways that vision can be impacted, right? There's
Yeah.
night vision, there's glare with bright lights or sun. There's some people who have difficulty focusing. I have central vision loss. Some people have the reverse, like in a
Yeah.
glaucoma where there's tunnel vision. And so in terms of accommodations for people who are on the spectrum of vision loss, there's Braille. But I lost vision later in life, and so I never learned Braille, and I'm still not proficient. There's audio formats, which can help really anyone. But I always felt, since there's so much diversity across the spectrum, there should be more of a variety in terms of the accommodations, so people can really participate at their preference.
Yeah.
And for me, I wanted to be able to read, if I still could, perceive large images.
Beautiful. So you come up with these books right here.
Yes, yes.
Wow,
So
this is amazing.
this one here is the very first one. It's a
Uh-huh.
bedtime story, because again, I was inspired to do this after my first son was born.
Yes.
So it's like nighttime, you're trying to get them settled for bedtime and calm, and laying them on you, and they're hearing your voice and feeling the vibration of you speaking helps to kind of lull them to sleep. And so my first inspiration was a bedtime story following baby bear through his nighttime routine.
Yeah,
This one here is called What's So Special About Books. This one is for like a pre-kindergartner who's learning the difference between toys and books, and we don't throw them all over the place.
Yeah.
And it also stresses that books can come from your imagination, and they can also take you to a place called imagination. And so just understanding that concept as well.
Wow.
And I have 2 more.
Yeah. What are the other two?
Sure. So this one
And
is
they're going to wrap me
called.
up in about 30 seconds.
Sure. So this one is called When You're the Expected. It's a great baby shower gift. It's a
Yeah.
satire on what was it? What to expect when you're expecting. Well,
Yes.
this is when you're the expected. So it's like a
Yes.
welcome home guide for newborns.
Uh-huh.
This last one I'm really proud of. I had great feedback on it. A lot of teachers are saying that they can create a whole lesson plan around it. This one is a book of metaphors to help a child build and grow their self-esteem.
Oh, that's great.
And just one last point, in
Yes.
terms of the feedback, I've gotten the most tearful responses from visually impaired parents, but also high prescription glasses wearers who say they can participate without their glasses. People on the neurodiversity spectrum are saying that my
Yeah.
choices are helping them to read more easily. Children with visual impairments, teachers, librarians who say they can hold my book at the front of the class and every child can see it and engage with the pictures and also now the words.
Oh, Krystle, we love you and thank you for
so much.
doing this.
Thank you so much for having
And
me.
good luck with everything.
I do
Krystle
appreciate that. Thank you.
Boateng.
Yes.
She
You
said, no,
got
you
it.
can say it the other way, but no, I'm going to leave it this way because I know how to
Exactly.
say it.
Thank you
Krystle,
so
thank you
much.
so much. Good luck with everything. God bless you.
Thank you.
All
Same
right.
to you.
We'll take a quick break. I've got more. It's all coming your way next on Open.